I'll tell you something we've seen here the last few years is more and more folks that are not traditional gun owners coming to take classes at Gunsite. And that makes us happy. And I'm not saying from the revenue side point. I'm saying that because they have recognized they are the first responder. They're going to be the one who deals with the problem. So they're starting to get prepared. And so at least they're getting training. Just because you own a piano does not make you a musician.
Amen.
Right? So they decided they're going to buy a gun. That's a Jeff Cooper quote. I'd like to take
so
credit
perfect.
for it. Monday, Tuesday, and Tuesday, we focus on gun handling and marksmanship. On Wednesday morning, we introduce mindset, and that's the critical part. You and I have discussed that. The solution is here. It's not here. We'll solve the problem here. My favorite quote, and it comes from Harry Truman. Work hard, do your best, and keep your word. Never get too big for your britches. Trust in God, have no fear, and never forget a friend. And my final closing remark is just like every one of my social media posts. When are you coming to Gunsite?
When are you coming to Gunsite? Yeah. If you're new or watching this as a replay, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. Please subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, and consider, if you're able, to become a paid subscriber on defenders-live.com. Your support is the only way I'm able to continue doing this labor of love. And also, if you're looking for exceptional firearms and self-defense training, go to defenders-usa.com and look at the calendar to see what's coming to your area this year. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Defenders Live. I'm your host, Laura Thorson. Tonight, we have retired Sheriff Ken Campbell on the show. Ken Campbell had over 35 years of experience at the Boone County, Indiana Sheriff's Office in Central Indiana, where he retired in 2014. His duties have included Special Response Team, SWAT Team Commander, Canine Handler, Crash Reconstructionist, Hazard Materials Technician, Reserve Unit Commander, Shift Supervisor, Enforcement Division Captain, Firearms Instructor and Armorer, and 2 terms as the elected sheriff. During his 35 years with the Sheriff's Office, he received 2 Department Commendation Awards, the Department Medal of Valor, and received the Richard G. Brown Police Officer of the Year Award by local media on 2 different occasions. Firearms training over the years has included Remington, Glock, Colt, Smith & Wesson, H&K, and many others. He is a Colt 1911 and AR Series Glock and Smith & Wesson revolver and auto pistol and armorer. His instructor certifications include several less lethal applications, including OC Spray, Sage International, and Taser. Ken has been teaching at Gunsite since 1992 in the pistol, carbine, rifle, and shotgun courses, and he was appointed the Chief Operating Officer in 2014 and Chief Executive Officer in 2019. Let's welcome Mr. Ken Campbell onto the show. Hey, Ken.
Well, that's kind of embarrassing when that's all read like that.
Why?
My wife would tell you that I also take the trash out every Friday as well. But I've been, thank you for the kind words there, but I've been blessed to have great leaders at the Sheriff's Office in my tenure there. It allowed me a lot of flexibilities and do a lot of things. And then same thing true here at Gunsite. But again, thank you for the kind introduction.
Well, sure. That all should be said, and you have earned every bit of it, it looks like. And I just want to say thank you for coming on the show. I've been looking forward to this. I know you probably don't remember, but you met me back in 2020. I came with a friend of mine from Montana to Gunsite, and I had the honor of being awarded the Jeff Cooper Legacy Foundation Scholarship. And that was the only way I could go down there, Ken. I learned so much. It was one of my first really formal training experiences. And it was a big eye opener for me. As I told you before, Lou was the lead instructor in the 250 class that I took. And I enjoyed every minute of it. The week flew by. It was just quite an experience.
Well, let me say 2 things. Toot your horn a little bit. You got a Marksman One in your class.
How do you remember that?
Pardon me?
How do you remember that?
That's why I'm the CEO.
What, did you look me up while I was talking?
I looked you up. You got a Marksman One. Now, let me explain. There's certificate of completion, which means you came, you were safe, you did okay, but you can't advance. Marksman means you did well and you can advance. Marksman One, then there's Marksman One and Expert. Expert is called the Golden E, and those are few and far between. Now, I'm an old school grader because I was working here when for Jeff Cooper. And we'd be arguing about, well, is Laura going to be a marksman or a Marksman One? And Jeff would finally step in and say, would you take her with you in a fight? Well, yes, I would. Well, then it's a Marksman One, move on.
You're kidding.
You got an accolade there from your staff, from the range staff. So good on you.
Well, thank you.
See,
for
I taught you
that.
something today.
Yeah.
But that's what a Marksman One means, that the coaches and range master would take you with them in a fight.
Wow. That almost makes me speechless. Thank you for saying that. That is an honor.
I'm only speaking what the truth is.
Oh, you guys have good record keeping over there.
Well, if the audience wants to type in questions, I'll try to answer.
Yeah, that's funny.
So,
wow.
Well, thank you. So, and the legacy.
Well, good.
Foundation.
I'm glad that I got the scholarship and actually lived up, did something really well in the class to afford the honor of getting the scholarship. That makes me feel good.
The Legacy Foundation is a wonderful thing. Gunsite's not inexpensive to come to. There's no question about that. But, and speaking to your audience here, what did you spend on the big screen TV, the surround sound system, all the different apps and cable TVs and all these things? Or what did you spend on the fancy sound system on your car, the wheels, the lift kits, all these kind of things? Will any of those things save your life or the life of the most precious person to you? So that's how you got to look at your tuition when you're coming out here. Right. The Legacy Foundation was founded after Colonel Cooper died in 2006. By the daughters, Lindy and Christy, and then also by Mrs. Cooper, because she was still alive. And they do scholarships to the 250 pistol class. They take zero money from the foundation for any salaries or buildings. They do printing, right? They've got brochures and things like that. But all of the monies raised go to that foundation. They do a lot of good. I'll give you an example. I was speaking with the Armed Women of America, another good organization. Mm-hmm. And they've had over 50 recipients of scholarships.
Wow.
Again, they're out training, right? Mm-hmm. As you do. So that's what that scholarship's set up for. So if you're interested in coming to Gunsite, and the money's a challenge, and I understand that. It was for me when I was a dark-haired deputy trying to get out here. Go to that Jeff Cooper Legacy Foundation. They're old school. You've got to write an essay. Mm-hmm. And that's great. Now, they don't pay your travel. They don't pay your ammunition. But the important part of that is you've got skin in the game. It's so important that you've got some ownership in this as opposed to everything just being gifted to you. Yeah. So I'm glad you were able to get that scholarship and look where the doors that opened for you.
And I so appreciate that. And I want to say too that I was going to say this at the end, but I'll say it right now. The experience I had at Gunsite was a lot more than just the training itself, which was so valuable. But the experience I had was a full-on experience from the moment I stepped foot on the property. And that is, there was attention paid to all the details. There were many points of contact before, during, and after the experience. It was very well organized. I did not meet one person who wasn't there to serve. That was a great experience for me. I remember even at lunch, you came over to all of our tables, you talked to all of us and actually listened to what we had to say. Yeah. And I understand that's a role that you have, but you take that seriously. And I appreciated that because unfortunately, there's not a lot of that in the world today. No. So it's refreshing.
We want Gunsite. Buzz Mills, who owns Gunsite, and his wife, Sonia, want Gunsite to be the gold standard on customer service. We strive for that every day. I put it simply this way. I want you to get the show with dinner. A lot of places can give you the show, but I want you to have dinner. They can give you the dinner, but I want you to have the show also. That doesn't mean we're laughing and joking all the time, but if you're having fun, your learning curve is going to rocket. Yeah. If you want us to yell at you and have you push on Arizona and do pull-ups, we've got the skill set. We can do that. But when this is adult education, we don't have to. And when you're having fun, and that's good. Now, coming over to visit with you at lunchtime. Let me go back to my prior life a little bit. I did 2 terms as the elected sheriff. Indiana has term limits. You can only do two terms in a constitutional office. But in those 4 elections, I lost 3 precincts total, and that was in my first election. So I was blessed, just like here, I was blessed to have a good team around me that got a lot of support. But part of what I did in the years preceding I was politically active prior to that, but there were coffee shops the farmers went to in the morning. There were lunch spots the businessmen went to. I was in those spots every week. I'd stop into one or the other or both over the course of the week. So it wasn't, oh my God, here comes Ken. It must be an election year. It was, hey, there's Ken. Well, our clients here, Gunsite family, we call them, they're my constituents. They just vote differently. And I do want to come over. I miss teaching terribly, but that's not my role now. I get to teach once in a while. I get to come in off the bench type thing and teach a little bit. But that's how I can help keep my finger on the pulse of how things are going.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what time of year were you here?
I think it was October, I want to say, maybe.
Was it popsicle season?
No.
Oh, okay. When the weather's hot in the afternoons, I show up with Otter Pops.
Oh, no, we didn't get those.
Right. So, but again, that's just another way I can interact with you and the students, and I hear how things are going on. And that's important because I want to know, I want to make sure we're maximizing your experience. I want you to get what we call the Gunsite Epiphany. And we get great gun writers and bloggers and videographers out here writing stories, but they can't express what you just said a few minutes ago about the whole experience. We're not just a shooting school. It's the whole experience. I say, think about the Grand Canyon. Have you ever been?
I have not.
The Grand Canyon?
No.
You need to go. And I'll tell somebody, you need to go to the Grand Canyon. Oh, I've seen it on TV. No, you need to go to the Grand Canyon. Oh, I've seen it on the big screen. No, you need to go to the Grand Canyon. Well, I've seen it at the IMAX theater. You need to go. And when you go to the Grand Canyon that first time, and you remember this when you go, you walk up there that first time, and there is all of God's grandeur out there in front of you. And it's breathtaking. You need to go to Gunsite. Oh, I've been to a range before. You need to go to Gunsite. Oh, I've been to a shooting school before. And then you come to Gunsite. And hopefully you get the experience you just described.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
And part of what makes Gunsite unique as well, besides that, I think, is that you have amenities there that other places just can't offer. So could you go into
Disneyland
that?
with guns.
Yeah. The shoot house was my most favorite of all of it.
That's wonderful. That's what we want. And you get in a 250 class, you get 2 indoor simulator runs, shoot house, and 2 outdoor simulator runs, plus your night shoot. Now, when you come back for $350, $499, or some of the other advanced classes, the night shoots are done in the live fire shoot house and in the outdoor simulators, not just on the traditional range. Yeah. So we tune it up even more.
Yeah.
So
I just got a taste of it, I'm sure. But in a beginner class, that's quite a bit. I mean, most beginner classes don't offer those kinds of things. So I appreciate
we cover, it's about 46 hours, depending on the time of year that you're here. Monday, Tuesday, and Tuesday, we focus on gun handling and marksmanship. On Wednesday morning, we introduce mindset. And that's the critical part. You and I have discussed that. The solution is here. It's not here. We'll solve the problem here. So we talk about mindset, and Jeff Cooper was known about that with the color code and the 7 principles of personal defense and so on. So we focused on that on Wednesday morning. And then Wednesday afternoon, that's the most important lecture you get here, as far as I'm concerned. Then Wednesday afternoon, you start working on the barricades and the door frames and the window frames. And then we take you down to one of the live fire shoot houses with the blue guns. And you go through 2 rooms with an instructor while the rest of the class is up on the catwalk observing. So they can vicariously learn and have more runs. Because on Thursday morning, you're in that live fire shoot house with the instructor, one-on-one, your pistol, frangible ammo, because some of the targets are up close, doors, windows, furniture, you're exposing the least amount of yourself, deciding if is it a good guy target or a bad guy target while your heart's racing, as you go through and clear that house. And then you do the same thing in an outdoor simulator where you're going down a wash, good guy and bad guy targets. Then after lunch on Thursday, they debrief you on that as a group. You're individually debriefed by the instructor you're going through with. And then you do more shooting Thursday afternoon, more challenging shooting. Friday morning, you're back in those simulators again. And here's the secret. Don't make the same mistakes on Friday you did on Thursday, because our instructors will know. They recall. And that's what the growth we're looking for. We're about teaching you how to fight with the weapon system. Pistol, carbine, shotgun, general rifle, long-range rifle. So they're looking for that improvement there. If you're looking to learn to be a competitive shooter, well, we're going to teach you the fundamentals of marksmanship and you'll be better. But we're about fighting with the gun. It's not about when that target just does this. It's how are you exposing the least amount of you? How are you watching the doors and windows? Did you shoot good guy targets in the shoot houses? Then on Friday afternoon, it's also part of the stress inoculation. And then Friday afternoon, we have a shoot-off. And it's not one of these shoot-offs where you get beat once and you go sit down. It's a multiple elimination tournament against different shooters every time. And again, it's stress inoculation. If you think about it, I know you live up, I came from Indiana, so I understand ice and snow and so on, as you do up in Montana. But the first time you were driving and you hit that icy patch, man, there's lots going on in your head. Do I steer this way? Do I brake, not brake, and so on and so on. And now you can drive down the road with your knee on the steering wheel, drinking a cup of coffee.
I don't know about that.
and you hit that slick spot and you don't panic because of that stress inoculation. Well, that's part of what we're doing here is we're putting you through those shoot houses and the shoot offs.
Yeah. Well, I think the bottom line is, for me, it was learning how to use my brain rather than I learned to use the gun. Now learn how to use your brain. And that's the most important thing. The most important part is learning that. So thank you for breaking that down for those who maybe haven't been. I take for granted that I have been, so I know all those things, but it is good to hear again. It brings memories back to my mind. I remember too being so appreciative of the instructors. The instructors are paying attention to the students individually and tracking their growth. Like, they're taking mental notes, they're paying attention. What I appreciated about Lou specifically was that Lou was very patient and respectful, but he was so severely clear. I appreciated that about him. And I knew that I could trust him. When there are all these people on the line and I don't know these people from Adam, I have to trust these other instructors to make sure that their eyes are where they should be. And I could do that with Lou and his set of guys, and I appreciated that. But there was no gray area for him. You knew exactly what was expected of you and at what time it was expected. And I love that. Maybe that's just me personally, how I operate. But
I'll come up if I'm downrange visiting, and I'll jump in on the line and help coach. And so I'll maybe adjust your grip, your trigger finger, or make a suggestion. Then I'll say, Laura, remember, you are paying us to nitpick you. And you are. Yeah. And we are looking for all those, as you know, as an instructor, there's so many little things that add up that make a big difference before that, on where that round impacts downrange. And that's what we want to be able to do, is see these things, keeping everybody safe, and making it happen.
Yeah, but running a tight ship in a patient, respectful way is a great line to walk, I think. And I've been in many, many classes, and I've seen many instructors, and the ones that lack experience have a hard time with that sometimes. It's like herding chickens. Sometimes some do well at it and some don't. But Lou you could really tell that he's had a lot of experience, and that's his strong suit. And I respected that about him.
Thank you. He was teaching a private class this week, and he's back next week for another 250 pistol class. I talk about this to the students. When I get on a big jet to fly somewhere, I go up that jetway and I always look in the cockpit, and it makes my heart truly leap with joy to see salt and pepper or gray hair. Man or woman, I don't care, but I want to see knowledge, experience, and wisdom.
I'm getting some of that gray hair, believe it or not.
And that's what our instructors bring. They've been on the two-weight range. This sounds pompous as can be, and maybe other schools would argue with me, and that's fine. They should. I've got the best instructors in the world here, and they've been on that two-weight range. It is extremely hard to come on staff here, and it should be. We're Gunsite. We're the world's oldest and largest privately owned firearms training academy. This is our 49th year of business, started in September. It's very hard to come on staff here. And we're proud of that. 99% of our instructors have, as Colonel Cooper used to say, have seen the elephant. They've been on those two-way ranges. They're military, law enforcement, or both, active duty or retired. We have a few specialist instructors. Some have led safari, and some are other game guides, big game guides. One in particular is a extreme long-range rifle, king of the 2-mile competitor type thing, very successful. So our folks are real folks. They didn't buy their way into being here, and they're not working here because of the hourly rate. They put in lots and lots of hours. It shows, but they're here because of the love of what we do, and we keep good Americans alive. And
I want to say too, and I can't speak for all the instructors there, but at least the ones I've met have a heart of service. Really have a true heart of service. And one of those guys that I know who actually was in Montana this past summer is Steve Tarani. And Steve and I have become good friends. And you want to talk about a heart of service. That man, I mean, I cannot believe how lethal that man is, and also how kind at the same time. Unbelievable.
Steve and I go back to 1993.
Really?
That's when we first met.
Wow.
And I used to bring him out to the sheriff's office to train our guys and gals. I've had him do private classes for my sons and my wife. I can't give you a better recommendation than that.
Yeah.
If I have him do classes for my immediate family. And he stayed at my house. I've stayed at his house. But he is an outstanding instructor. Humble. You'd never know until you sit down and really talk to him about what his real background is. Some of the alphabet agencies he has worked with, and so on. And if he's coming after me, I want a big bore rifle and a big long distance. I would never want to be on the opposing team for
with Steve, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
But what a kind man with such a huge heart. I was blown away by what I learned from him, his kindness and humbleness and lethality at the same time. It was just mind blowing to me. So
people don't know it, but there's a school safety program that was developed and adopted by the National Sheriff's Association and the Indiana School Superintendents, not Indiana, the National School Superintendents Association. It's all about protecting schools. He couldn't get credit for it, but Steve wrote it.
Really? I'm not surprised.
But he got nothing for it. Pat on the back, probably took him to dinner. But I mean, it's a very comprehensive, multi-year developed program. But that's the kind of guy Steve is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And that's the kind of talent he has too. He's an incredible writer as well.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, let's see. What direction do I want to go next, Ken?
I probably checked several of the boxes already. I'm an old elected official. You tell me to say go and I can just talk.
I know. I noticed that right off the cuff. I'm like, well, it's funny because I've interviewed, I've been doing this 2.5 years. I'd say, how many people do you think? Probably 160, close to 200 people I've interviewed now. And it's really interesting to me. Everyone is so different. Some have to be really spoon fed, really got to poke them, prod them along. And others, you just give them one thing and they're off to the races. So yeah, you've done this a time or two, haven't you, Ken?
Well, between testifying in court and again, being an elected official, not a politician, an elected official. I've got the gift of BS, if nothing else.
I don't think it's BS. I don't feel that from you. But okay, here's one thing I'm curious about, because you've got so much experience as in law enforcement and as a teacher and all of this experience under your belt. I'm curious to know, who was Ken before you started your law enforcement career?
Well, that's an interesting question. That's a first. I started when I was 19.
Did you really?
Yes, ma'am. I was blessed to have a really good sheriff. His name was Ernie Hudson.
Wow.
And he took a chance with me and hired me as a jail deputy. We were called turnkeys. And it was a 1938 model jail, right? Built by the WPA, the worker. What was that during the Depression? It's where the government hired people to work to get them to work.
Wow.
And so our jail was built in 38. I was married. I've been married 46 years to a wonderful woman. She deserves sainthood.
Wow.
For putting up with me. We were high school sweethearts.
Aww.
And we eloped 2 weeks after she turned 18, graduated high school and turned 18. My joke is I took her to Kentucky where it was legal since she was 12. So I was 19. I was going to Indiana University in Indianapolis part-time, was working in a grocery store, and then I got hired by Sheriff Hudson to work in the jail, and I continued to do that. It took me 6 years to do that. But I knew in 7th grade when the police came to the junior high to talk about career day, and I knew I wanted to be a policeman.
Really?
I was either going to be that or an archaeologist.
Okay, but tell me why. I want to know what about it drew you.
I could drive fast. Somebody was going to buy my bullets, and I could arrest bad guys.
Nuh-uh, really?
I don't know. It's just what I was drawn to. Archaeology is a detective, right? Right. So I was never a detective in the many roles that I was fortunate enough to have.
So you were curious about figuring out things. Is that right?
Yeah, it was. I was in Boy Scouts and all these different things. So I like that aspect. And maybe I can take one of your lines without sounding like a pompous ass, but maybe I have a servant's heart too. I'd like to think I do.
I don't think maybe you do. I think you do.
If we can do that and do good things for people and be there for people when they need us the most, I did that for. I was blessed. I worked my way up through the ranks. I was a probation officer for that long. Yeah. I was working a bizarre shift at the sheriff's office in the jail, and I was a reserve deputy. And this probation officer's position came open, which was Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. Oh my, that sounds real interesting. As I'm trying to, I'm working nights, going to college in the daytime, trying to stay awake in philosophy class, and so on. So I did that for about a year. I stayed on as a reserve deputy, but then I got hired as a patrol deputy because the probation was not the side of the justice system I needed to be in. Yeah. And then I worked my way up through the ranks, and like a lot of cops, I did a lot of different things. Everything from working security to delivering portalets to whatever it takes to make ends meet. Sherry and I were married 8 years before we had any babies, and she always made more money than me. She had retail management, and we decided she'd stay home. And Ken had to make up the difference, and I'm not complaining at all. Yeah. It was a right decision. So I got to do a lot of things. But I remember my dad, getting back to your original question, I remember my dad talking to me. He was very good with math, and he was an aerial photographer in World War II.
Oh, wow.
Math came to him and it didn't to me. And I'd be doing my work and, son, you need to pay attention to this geometry and trigonometry and physics. And I'm like, Father, I'm going to be a policeman. I need to learn about report writing and things like that. Well, fast forward about 10 years and I'm in crash reconstruction school. That's 8 weeks. It's at Northwestern University, and it's physics and geometry and trigonometry. He's like, what are you doing there, boy? Well, okay, you were right. I should have paid attention. And as we both know, shooting is physics and geometry. It boiled down to. So I should have paid attention back then, but my focus was wanting to be a cop.
Hey guys, I would like to invite you to something new that I'm offering. I am going to be hosting a live Zoom call once a month for my paid subscribers. I really want to offer something special, something valuable, and something with a personal touch to you every month. And this is my way of helping you guys on your journey. And what you can expect is a variety of different topics, all within 4 buckets that I talk about on Defenders Live, which are health and well-being, mental and emotional health, spiritual fitness, and self-defense. So once a month, I am going to be presenting some questions to you during that Zoom call. We're going to have a conversation live, and there's a good chance that the founder of Defenders USA, Adam Winch, might be on that call as well. So I invite you to join me on the Defenders Live community. As a paid subscriber, you will be getting emails about these once a month. You can sign up for this by going to defenders-live.com and becoming a paid subscriber. I hope to be talking to you soon and seeing you in the live Zoom calls. Thank you so much for your support of Defenders Live.
I went to, Indiana has term limits, and I what's called maxed out my pension. After 35 years, you don't gain any more in your pension if you stay. And if you get elected sheriff and I stay, I get to revert back to my last permanent rank, which was captain, but it's not healthy. You tell the deputies what to do, and then they happen by my office and say, what do you think? And that's not good.
Yeah.
Or if I buy your business and you stay. So I had about 13 months left, and I was here at Gunsite. I was out here this time for a memorial service for one of our instructors and his wife who was killed. And Buzz Mills, who owns Gunsite, he and I were cleaning up the cookie crumbs and the coffee pots from the memorial service. He's a real hands-on guy. I don't know if you got to meet him when you were here.
No, I didn't.
He is a wonderful, wonderful man. He is a great mentor to me. Well, we're cleaning that up, and he goes, what are you going to do when you grow up? I said, what? He goes, what are you going to do when you grow up? Aren't you going to retire? And I said, well, yeah, I got 13 months left, but I'm hoping I get to come out and teach more often. And I'll explain how our instructors work here in a minute. I said, I hope you'll let me come out and teach some more. And he put his hand on my shoulder in this building that you're looking at right here behind me out the window. And he said, well, let's talk about that. And he offered me this job. And I know I stood there with my mouth hanging open.
Yeah.
And we talked about it. And a few months later, the NRA annual meeting was in Indianapolis, and that was my neighboring county. And he and I shook hands and said, we got a deal. And my wife had been out here many times with me. We loved it out here. My 10th anniversary is coming up here the middle of December.
I wondered.
So that's how the good Lord smiled on me and said, this is where you need to be. If you'd have told me in November of 1990, when I took my 250 class and looking around thinking this has been great, but the department will never send me back again, that I'd be sitting here in this chair right now doing what I do, I'd have said, you're high. But
I love it when things like that happen in life. I mean, I've been blindsided by blessings myself, and it's a wonderful thing.
So grateful. Let me talk briefly about our instructors.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
We've got about 10 or 12 full-time people. That's from housekeeping to my chair. And then I've got about 60 or 65 part-time instructors. And Gunsite's always done it that way. They come from all over the country, military, law enforcement background. And they bid on their classes. We send out the calendar for the next year and say, okay, tell us what you'd like to teach. And then we bring them out. If I'm going to have the best instructors, I want to pay them well. We give them per diem, the max per diem, and we pay their travel. And we give them a real nice place, to stay here. We have a bunkhouse, we call it. And don't think like Yellowstone TV show bunkhouse. think like a fire station. Nice, clean double bunk rooms, bathrooms, big day room, kitchen, laundry, pantry, and so on. Some of the best evenings of my life over the years have been spent on the porch of our bunkhouse with the other instructors, grilling some red meat, probably smoking a cigar and having a beverage and just relaxing after teaching all day. And you know how mentally fatiguing.
Yeah.
You're an instructor. You know exactly how mentally fatiguing it can be,
Yeah.
not just physically. So we've got a great bunch of guys and gals that come out and do that. That's how we get the best in the world. And if people want to question me on the best in the world, come out to Gunsite and take a class. Challenge me. let you see, let you experience what our instructors are and can do.
So can I go back to your law enforcement career here briefly? And I told you before, if I ask you something you don't want to answer, I know you know how to give me a non-answer. But I'm curious about the awards of service that you have, and I'm wondering if you are willing to talk about any of those, what happened, or the experiences you had around those.
It's not about. The answer is here. It's not here. Mm-hmm. So when I was operations captain, I'm an early morning guy. I'd come into work. And night shift would still be there. And they'd be like, oh, boss, this happened. We got this guy last night. Ability, opportunity, jeopardy, all the boxes were checked. But we did things right. We didn't have to shoot that guy. Mm-hmm. That is a huge, huge win.
Yes.
And I'm very proud of being involved in some of that training in there. I don't know that I got any awards for. I did get one commendation award for some training aspects, but the others were for just doing good police work. And I was part of a team of guys that did a really good job. They're the ones who deserve the accolades more than me. I just happen to be part of that team. So that's about the best answer I can give you.
Fair enough.
It's what Ronald Reagan said. You surround yourself with good people you trust, and you empower them to act. And Sheriff Hudson, who was one of my great mentors, that he believed in that. Now, don't get me wrong. He could chew your butt with a PhD. Believe me,
yeah.
I've been on that end of it. But when he was done, he was done.
Yeah.
Just don't do it again. But he would do that. He believed in surrounding yourself like that and let people lead. And I hope I learned that much of that from him and carried that on through the sheriff's office and again here at Gunsite. That
makes sense. I have a really soft spot. I don't know if you've realized this yet, but I have a really soft spot for first responders and veterans. And I, throughout the 2.5 years I've been doing this show, have seen a recurring pattern, I guess you'd say, of a need for a lot of those people to be heard. A lot of them really don't want to talk, and I get that. But I'm wondering if, in your experience, what would you say the biggest issue that at large that this community is struggling with right now, and what's the best way that we can help them? And that might be too big of a question for this show, but I'd just love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I'll tell you something we do here at Gunsite, and we think it's been fruitful. About 25 years ago, Buzz Mills said we need to do something for veterans. He's a Marine Corps veteran. And, our country treated our Vietnam vets so poorly when they came back. And my dad was a World War II vet. He was gone 3.5 years. Our Vietnam vets weren't treated poorly. So that was some of my family. So he wanted to do something. So every other year, we do 3 free 250 pistol classes and 3 free 223 carbine classes for overseas veterans of the War on Terror. And again, we've done this for 25 years. And how great, I tout our instructors. They don't get paid. They volunteer their time and travel to come here. We don't charge anything for the classes. And those classes fill up like that. And it's giving something back. And one of our students a few years ago said, these great vets, guys and gals, don't need to be paying for their meals. And he writes a check to Liz, our caterer, our lunch caterer, for $8,000 to pay for those lunches. And he's done it 3 times now. And he is not a vet. He's a first responder. Mm-hmm. So that's a wonderful thing. But there was a group from 10th Mountain that hadn't been together, that many of them all at once, since they got back. And it was wonderful seeing them interact, seeing the wounded warriors that we get here in the classes. And I think that's really good therapy for some of them. To see their buddies again, to be handling guns in a safe and responsible manner and doing good things like that. So that's coming up again in 2025. So if you qualify for that, your listeners here, you want to get on Gunsite's website, and the classes open at 0001 hours, January 1. So if you're a partier on New Year's Eve, you've got to keep yourself stable enough so you can be sitting there at the keyboard with that application all filled out, ready to hit send, because believe me, those classes fill quickly. Now, it doesn't pay for your ammo. It doesn't pay your travel. We're paying your tuition. Again, go back to skin in the game. We want you to have skin in the game. So those are great things, but it's great seeing those vets back together again.
Yeah.
And, they can share things with each other that I don't grasp. I can talk to cops, but we don't grasp that. There's a lady that comes to our that's a Gunsite grad and also belongs to our Armed Women of America chapter here at Gunsite, and she's the psychologist or psychiatrist, and I don't recall which, for the VA here. And it's wonderful that she does what she does with these vets and helping them out, because they've got a lot on their plate. I know I can speak to police work. It's hard to talk to somebody about a critical incident, whether it's a car crash or whatever, that haven't really been there, done that.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. So
again, anything folks can do to support legitimate organizations, you got to be careful. Make sure they're legitimate organizations. Gunsite supports U.S. vets. There's a chapter in Prescott, and we do things to help them with fundraisings. They help support vets from housing to teaching them different skills, culinary skills, all kinds of things to help keep them employed or get them employed. Again, a lot of our instructors are vets. We do what we can to help.
Well, thank you for what you do.
They are, well, you're the one who brings it up and gets it out here for people. So thank you for that. But we wouldn't have the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and our way of life were it not for those vets over these 200 plus years of our republic going out there, putting it all on the line, and their families. Don't forget their families. Yeah. They sacrifice also.
Well, let's switch gears here just a little bit. I think I just have a couple more questions. One of them might throw you for a loop, but I'm not going to lead with that one just right now. I think you've kind of touched on this, but one of the questions I had for you is, what is the best practical advice that you could give someone who's looking to carry based on the experience you've had in everything that you've done? I know that you have a good handle on this, and I think we talked about mindset a lot earlier, but besides that, is there anything else? Or is that it? That's the most important part.
Well, I'll tell you something we've seen here the last few years is more and more folks that are not traditional gun owners coming to take classes at Gunsite. And that makes us happy. And I'm not saying from the revenue side point. I'm saying that because they have recognized they are the first responder. They're going to be the one who deals with the problem. So they're starting to get prepared. And so at least they're getting training. Just because you own a piano does not make you a musician.
Amen.
Right. So they decided they're going to buy a gun. That's a Jeff Cooper quote. I'd like to
take so perfect. Yeah.
But just because you buy that gun doesn't mean it's the right gun for you. I mean, how many students have you had that they went into the gun store, and especially with ladies? Oh, little lady, this is just the gun for you.
Yes.
Ladies, could you just reach across the counter and slap them when they say that?
Yeah.
I hate being at a gun show or a gun shop when I hear them say that. But to get the training, and the training isn't just this, as you pointed out, it's this. So you want to get something to, remember the movie Cool Hand Luke? If you haven't seen that, you cut a corner off your woman card.
I think my husband made me watch it once.
Cool Hand Luke, and there's a line in there where Strother Martin looks at Luke and says, "Luke, you got to get your mind right." And that's just life in general. You got to get your mind right. Yeah. So the mindset part of it. There's a great book called Principles of Personal Defense. Jeff Cooper wrote it. It's 43 pages long. It's not expensive. Don't buy it on eBay because for some reason the price is jacked way up there, or on Amazon. Buy it from our pro shop. It's cheaper. But it is a great book for you to sit down and read every 6 months. How long does it take you to read 43 pages? And it helps you get your mind right so you can realize when you step out the door of your home, it's not all rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah.
There's some evil people out there, and you've got to be able to face that evil. You may have to today, in the next 20 minutes. We don't know when. If we knew when it was going to happen, we wouldn't go.
Right.
We'd avoid it.
Right.
Right. But you may have to. So you got to get that mental aspect of the training, not just this part of it. Now, making your mind up to go get training with the gun is a step in the right direction. But then don't just take that one CCW class in your home state or that 1-2 day class. You've got to continue to get good education. Would we love you to come here to Gunsite? Absolutely. But we also know not everyone has the wherewithal to be able to come this far, travel, and so on. Vet your trainers carefully. There's some people that hang up a shingle that say, "I are a trainer." And some of those are kind of spooky. Some of the videos you watch on YouTube are downright scary. So vet your training, save your money. Decide, well, that one's pretty expensive. Yeah, it is. Save your money a little longer and get the best training you can so you can come back and be more prepared. One of the other questions we'll get here, especially with these new gun owners coming out, what gun should I buy to bring? Well, let me suggest this. And again, I'm careful here. I'm not trying to make money. Well, I am. I'm a capitalist, but I'm not trying to get more money from you. Rent a gun from us. Come out here, rent the gun, the magazines, the holster, and the mag pouches. I think it's $35 a day, I think. But if the Glock 19 we've got in your hand today doesn't work, we'll put a Glock 48 in your hand tomorrow, or a 1911, or a Beretta, or a SIG. And we'll work with you to find out what works best for you. And then when you leave class, you're an informed consumer. So when you walk in the gun store, you know what it is that will work for you and you can buy that. So it's not just one piece. It's lots of little pieces that you can put together, finding the right gun, finding the right training, saving the money, making the mental investment in it. So, and then you're continuing education. I'm forever a student.
Yeah.
It's always kind of fun. Oh, Laura, you're a firearms instructor? You must shoot all the time. Exactly. Oh, you're the CEO of Gunsite? You must shoot all the time.
Yeah.
I wish. We had a ladies pistol class. I have one going on this week. And I was downrange taking otter pops to them yesterday. Sorry to let down on that. That's another reason for you to come back.
Yeah.
And there was an open spot on the line. So I jumped in and shot a couple relays with them because I never get trigger time.
Yeah.
If there's other opportunities come up, seek good trainers. My friend Dave Spalding and Rich Nance are going to be down in the Phoenix area in February. Well, I'm jumping into one of their classes. Rob Latham, the great one.
The great.
I've taken classes from him before because I've got to have somebody stand behind me. And if you ever watched NCIS, I need somebody to Gibbs slap me in the back of the head, say, hey, did you ever think about pressing the trigger? And so on. But you got to get training and then continue your training. So
yeah, I think that's the most valuable thing you said there. And I knew all of what you were saying, but I can't stress enough the value of staying humble and staying curious. Those two things for me have produced so many good results. And I don't care what it is, whatever it is that you're interested in, be curious and humble about it and you'll learn. I really, truly think that.
I just wrote a piece, I think it was in this month's Guns magazine, an FMG publication, and it's called Don't Be That Guy.
We've all met that guy, haven't we?
Right. Trainers meet that guy all the time. Hey, Laura, why don't you try shooting like this? And I get the side eye and say, well, this is the way my husband, this is the way I learned in the Corps, this is the way the department taught me, and so on. Why did you send us the money? Right? If you're going to do it the way you've always done it, why did you pay tuition, travel, a hotel, meals, all that? You could have stayed home and shot at soda cans on the backstop. Listen and try what we're offering. I was at Bill Rogers School in LJ, Georgia a few years back. Been a couple times. He's legendary. He's one of those instructors that's getting there up in the years. So if you think you want to get training from him, go now. And he's a big isosceles shooter. Well, I prefer Weaver. That's what Jeff Cooper taught me, right? So, but that's what works for me. But I'm at Bill Rogers School, and I'm there to learn isosceles. Well, he used to have a range master, a fellow I knew named Ronnie Dodd, God rest his soul, old Tennessee boy. And he's the range master. And one of the coaches, a guy named Billy, came out of Naval Special Warfare. He comes up, and I'm shooting a Weaver, and he says, get that arm up here. And finally, Ronnie yells at him and says, leave him alone. He's hitting. I'm like, no, cut a switch off the tree and get me on the back of the calves. I came to learn your way. So don't be that guy or that gal in class. Come with an open mind, listen and do and try. And you're going to find nuggets to take away. I may not agree with everything I learn, but I'm still going to find useful nuggets that I'm taking away from every class I take. I
love that. I don't mean to, I don't want to offend you by saying coming from a guy with gray hair is saying this. Like, this is good.
Laura, I earned
the
every
age doesn't matter. What's that?
I earned every one of these gray hairs.
I bet you did. And what few I have, mine are covered up with a ball cap. So
ladies don't get gray hair.
They don't?
No, not at all.
Well, I appreciate your time today, Ken. And I'm just wondering, anyone that's out there that's interested in what you're talking about, how can they learn more? Where should they go? I think it looks like you have YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.
We do. All
on
those
Gunsite,
things.
And I'll put that on the bottom, but it's gunsite.com. It's GUNSITE for those who are listening and not watching. Gunsite.com is where you go to find out more. Am I right?
Absolutely. Or you can always just email me, and I've got a pretty complicated email. Ken, Ken, @gunsite.com.
Perfect.
And if I can't answer your question, I'll refer it on to the right person in staff that can answer your question. And I'll give you a good example is in our long range rifle classes where we're shooting out to 1,800 yards, or the extreme long range where we're going out to 2,400. You can tie up a lot of money in equipment really fast. Well, if you email me and say, I want to take this class, I'll put you electronically in touch with one of our range masters, and they can say, oh God, don't buy that. Or yeah, you're on the right track here. That's good. So you don't show up with the wrong stuff and make your course more challenging and then have to go back and buy something else. So reach out to me if you've got questions.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
I'll tell you another thing to save you a little bit of money if we still got another minute or two.
Sure, yeah.
Go to our website, and I think it's under About Gunsite. There's a tab on lodging. If you look at the lodging tab, it shows hotels and bed and breakfasts that we recommend. And let's say the Spring Hill Suites in Prescott. If you call them direct and say, I'm coming to Gunsite, they give you a discount. And that's a good thing. They love our clients. The bed and breakfast people want to have babies for us. Well, the clientele we have are wonderful people. Gun owners are. Good, responsible gun owners are good people. And so they don't trash the place. They don't get drunk and party and so on and so on. They pay their bills. So the hotels and the bed and breakfast want to be on our lodging list. So it can also save you some money there.
That's helpful.
When you're coming out, if you just spend a few minutes playing around on the website.
Well, that's great, Ken. Do you have any parting thoughts for anyone that might be listening right now who is never even heard of Gunsite before, just now met you? What would you like to leave people with? Well,
if you haven't heard of Gunsite, we're not doing our job right. But I'm glad you have heard about us now. Don't be intimidated, because we're the world's oldest and largest privately owned firearms training academy. Because I've got law enforcement and military vets that are instructors. It's just as you said. You come in here and we just wrap our arms around you. You feel welcome, and we call it the Gunsite family, and we treat you like family in a good way.
In a good way.
So don't be intimidated. Ask us questions. Go on whatever your favorite search engine is and just type in our name. Read the reviews that come up on some of the different websites. That's the best advertising I have in the world. Do I make 100% of the people happy? Absolutely not. You can't. 99% of them are. And I'll stand by that reputation in there.
Well, I, for one, had an incredible experience there. I'm very grateful for Gunsite giving me a huge step in my early career. Like, just amazing. The people were wonderful. And those are memories that I'll have with me the rest of my life, So
there's so many people that are friends now because of Gunsite that would have never happened without Gunsite.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for your time today, Ken. I appreciate it.
I got two closing things.
Okay.
My favorite quote, and it comes from Harry Truman. Work hard, do your best, and keep your word. Never get too big for your britches. Trust in God, have no fear, and never forget a friend. And my final closing remark is just like every one of my social media posts. When are you coming to Gunsite?
When are you coming to Gunsite? Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.